All right, so we have my colleague Jyotsna Kumar, who is still with us, and we also have Dr. Glenn Deason, the Professor of International Relations at the University of Southeastern Norway. Jyotsna, let me in fact start with you. Tell us about the latest updates in terms of what is happening at this moment in Caracas.
Right, of course, as you had mentioned, there were 7 explosions over Venezuela in Caracas. Now, what we know, the latest that has just come in, that U.S. officials have said this to U.S. media. Now, we know that U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered strikes on sites inside Venezuela, including military facilities. Now, this is what U.S. officials have told U.S. media so far. This is the newest that we know, that U.S. media has now been saying that Trump had ordered these in the attacks on inside Caracas and on military sites. What we know is that, of course, we saw some visuals of these attacks. Explosions did happen over Caracas, of course, inside Venezuela. There has been a state of emergency declared by the president, who has now called this attack as U.S. aggression, considering the fact that it's the world's largest oil reserve. Trump has been calling him the drug lord, the cartel lord. So now Maduro has been denying it, calling that these attacks, if it happens, is for regime change. This has been mentioned in the statement released by Venezuela. What we know so far is that U.S. media has now come out with a statement, and that U.S. officials have said that Trump ordered these attacks inside Venezuela. That's the latest that we know so far.
With us, Professor Deason, if I can bring you in now, this was something that was building up for the last several weeks and months, and the American president, someone who calls himself the President of Peace, it appears has started what appears to be at this moment an attack on Venezuela. How sustained do you think this attack is going to be? What is the American objective here?
Well, the reasoning they're giving varied greatly, as you suggest before. Everything from fighting narco-terrorism to preventing Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, Iran from so-called operating in Venezuela. Essentially all the countries they're being told they should fear. Some will lean into the whole peace prize, Nobel Peace Prize argument that there's a need to promote democracy in Venezuela through military means. Overall, I think the major objective of the United States is twofold. One is, of course, seizing control over a lot of the natural resources. Trump has on many occasions said that it's important to have control over Venezuelan oil, as this is, they have the largest reserves and it's in America's backyard. But on the wider theme, I think this corresponds well with the new U.S. national security strategy,
right,
which recognizes that the U.S. need to control the Western Hemisphere in a new imperialist version of the Monroe Doctrine.
Now, Donald Trump, just a few days back, at the time when he imposed a naval blockade on Venezuela, said that Venezuela stole American oil, land and assets. A lot of people were perplexed when the American president, of course, said this and started raising questions as to how can Venezuela, that does not share a land border with the United States of America, steal American land, oil and assets. Do you think this is the American president now going into Venezuela to try and take its oil? Because these oil facilities from the 1930s till about the 1970s were developed by the American companies when Venezuela decided to nationalize its oil assets.
No, definitely. This is one of this is part of the logic as well, as Trump sent out on social media, that because America helped to develop some of these resources, it belongs to America. This is part of the reasoning also to argue that the Panama Canal could still be seized by the United States because they developed it, it belongs to them. Indeed, this argument has also been made by Trump. So I think there's a lot to that. But they haven't, of course, hidden this motivation. That the natural resources, they shouldn't end up with adversaries. It belongs to the United States.
And also this moment, there are reports of 7 explosions that have happened at this moment in Venezuela. The attacks by the Americans started roughly at about 1 a.m. local time is what is being reported. Do you expect, now this is what some would expect, the beginning of the American invasion of Venezuela to try and bring about a regime change, or do you think the Americans would be open to a negotiation? Because just yesterday, Nicolas Maduro said that he's open for American companies to again come back and carry out these oil activities that they were doing before oil was nationalized in Venezuela.
Well, I'm not sure if that will be enough for the United States. I think the US would like more or less a colonial dominance over Venezuela, so they want complete subservience. In other words, it's not enough to get oil deals. They want all adversarial countries doing business there to get out, and they want the US to be able to essentially manage Venezuela. So Maduro has previously opened up for the United States to come back into Venezuela, but this was rejected. So I think the objectives of the Americans are much greater than this. This is again putting putting Venezuela under the US sphere of influence, which means exclusive influence.
Interesting. And also at this moment, is there anything that you expect that Venezuela can rely on its allies, that is Russia and China, because almost about 90% of the Venezuelan oil exports all go to China? Can Venezuela rely on its allies to come to its rescue?